If you go to Cambodia, the first place you will probably visit is Angkor, and ancient temples, Angkor Wat, Ta Prohm, Bayon. But it's not just the ancient history that will grasp your imagination. There are gruesome images of the killing fields and the times of the Pol Pot regime. In the northeast, where the hill tribes live, you'll meet a people whose way of life is almost extinct, as well as gem mines where you can see Cambodia from the inside. The people you will meet are a proud people who have a rich, astounding history. The journey from the town of Pol Pot on the Thai border to Siem Reap takes about 4 hours on the back of a pickup, but this doesn't diminish the excitement as you reach the town and the nearby Angkor ruins. Farzad was in Cambodia 3 years ago. The people he met and the places he went to left a lasting impression. What are these impressions? They are possibly different for everyone, but they are vivid, and a journey through Cambodia will not easily be forgotten. As you reach the south gate, you get a glimpse of many of the faces found in Bayon. The causeway, flanked on the left by 54 gods, and on the right by 54 demons. About a kilometer up the road is Bayon, situated in the center of the city of Angkor Thom. At first it was thought Bayon was a Hindu temple, but later discoveries moved its date of origin some 300 years to the late 12th century, and its religion to Buddhism. As you enter Bayon, there are galleries of bas-reliefs depicting battles and other scenes from daily life. The doorway at the east entrance is the first of many as you move up to the second level. The aim of the architecture seems to have been to create a temple of such intricacy that its worshippers could not fail to be impressed by it. Once on the second level, you look down on a maze of corridors and courtyards. Built in the late 12th century to the early 13th century during the reign of Jayavarman VII, who became a Buddhist to appease his people who were adopting Buddhism at the time. Whatever its origin, this temple was definitely built on the ruins of an earlier one. Arriving on the third level, the 54 towers come into view, each adorned with 4 faces whose expressions and origins have been disputed by historians since their discovery by a French botanist in 1860. Each face has its own distinctive expression, which appears to change according to the light and time of day. Is this a smile of a Buddha, or the smirk of an arrogant king? It is this level which was probably reserved for priests and high-ranking officials. Looking at Taprom now, it's hard to believe Sanskrit writings found here, describing the population of this place. With over 12,000 worshippers, tended by 18 priests and more than 2,500 lesser priests, this huge Buddhist temple, also built by Jayavarman VII, must have been an impressive sight. It remains so today. A lot of people consider this temple the most beautiful because of its relationship to the encroaching jungle, which is slowly destroying it. Long since abandoned, the jungle slowly overtook the buildings, cracking and squeezing walls and prizing stones apart. The canopy of trees overhang the whole site, obstructing the sunlight, creating a peaceful green half-light. Taprom is a strange harmony of stone and vegetation, which will one day disappear into the jungle forever. The best way to see Angkor Wat and the Angkor area is from the air. The area contains around 120 temples and 2 man-made lakes or barrays, which apparently enable the cultivation of up to 4 crops a year, possibly to sustain the large workforce required to build these temples. The temple is surrounded by a moat 200 meters wide. The main entrance and causeway leading up to it is from the west, in contrast to most other temples which have east-facing entrances, west being traditionally associated with death. Starting in the reign of Suryavarman II, this Hindu temple took over 30 years to build and is the largest and most impressive in Angkor. The overall pyramid shape of the temple, peaking at 65 meters, possibly symbolizes Hinduism's mythical Mount Meru. The galleries of bas-reliefs on the outer walls of the main temple present scenes from important Hindu myths and battles. The scenes depicted read from left to right, which is a practice used in Hindu religious ceremonies for tombs and not temples, fueling the mystery as to the origin and purpose of Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat was the work of a whole reign, from 1113 to 1150, made out of sandstone, probably quarried many miles away and transported here by river. It's estimated as much stone was used here as in the building of the Great Pyramid of Khafra in Egypt. Whatever its original purpose, the impression of Angkor Wat on the visitor is unforgettable. And to the Khmer, it remains a symbol of national identity. After freshening up, it's time to confront another chapter in Cambodia's past. Kia is an ex-Khmer Rouge soldier who knows the area in the north of Cambodia where the town of Anlong Veng is situated. It's not really a tourist destination. It's the last outpost of the Khmer Rouge, the place where Pol Pot spent his last days. If you talk to the locals, you might find someone like Kia, prepared to take you to this quiet historical village and its untold stories. Who was Pol Pot? His real name was Saloth Sa, son of a moderately wealthy farmer, one of the first students to receive a government scholarship to attend university in France, at a time when Cambodia was still a French protectorate. An uninspired student whose political ideas first began to form in Paris when he read about the French Revolution. Keir has taken us to his brother, also an ex-Khmer Rouge soldier, who knows the whereabouts of the house to which Pol Pot fled to escape the advancing Vietnamese army in the early 90s. Keir explains that it's not as easy as it first seemed, finding the house.
I want you to see the house on the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Then we come.
Do we have to get?
I don't know exactly now, but I know before not broken, but now I don't know yet. So if we didn't, if we don't see the house over there, we can to see the house that at Anlong Veng, you know.
Pol Pot had returned to Cambodia in 1953, a devout communist, ultimately believing that only his radical form of socialism, the destruction of the family unit and all vestiges of history, is what would free the ordinary Cambodians from the shackles of the imperialistic and elitist past. The next step is to get permission to enter the area, which is still not open to tourists due to the number of mines. Between 1975 and 1978, Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge implemented what's known as agrarian communism upon the unsuspecting Cambodians. Starting with year zero in 1975, they forced the entire population, now known as the New People, out of the cities and into the countryside, to dig canals and clear fields for rice production. Pol Pot believed rice exports would finance his vision of a developed Cambodia. Hundreds of thousands died of disease, hunger and beatings. Of a population of 7 million, as many as 2 million died. The Khmer Rouge saw them as expendable. Keeping you is no gain. Losing you is no loss. He was tried for the killing of a fellow party member and his family. He was never tried for any of the crimes against other Cambodians who died under his system. He died of natural causes in his own home on the 15th of April 1998. This is the place where he was cremated. Keir and the others that led us there claim that he was cremated under the tires of old cars at his own request. Where he died seems like an unlikely spot for such an important man to have spent his last days, and almost gives credence to his claims of love for the poor people. This rocky outcrop, with its view over Cambodia, was a place he sat and discussed developing the country for the poor people. The poor people of the country, however, are reeling from the results of his policies and the paranoia he felt for the Vietnamese in the last few years of his life. As he retreated from the Vietnamese-backed government forces, both sides laid mines to protect their positions. This has left the land and its people scarred. The legacy of this revolution destroyed everything Cambodians held dear, unraveling the connections with Buddhism, village life, friends, and family.
Okay, bye.
This is Pol Pot's house and the Khmer Rouge's headquarters in the 1990s. It was where plans were made to regain power and defeat the encroaching Vietnamese arch-enemies. The view from the front of the house is idyllic. On an island in the middle of these lakes is a concrete bunker where the locals claim Pol Pot, in his paranoia, slept at night.
Toilet paper. Thank you.
Okay.
The history of the area seems surreal. Driving back to Siem Reap, sharing a home-rolled cigarette with some local hitchhikers, you're struck by the resilience of these people who live somehow reconciled with their recent tormented past. Bayon, massage by the blind. These landmine victims, renowned for their skills, soothing away the hardships of the day.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
In Phnom Penh, there are reminders of the time when Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge had power. There are survivors of this period who can tell you stories that can't be found in fiction. To get there from Siem Reap, you can take a boat down the Ton Sap. It's a huge lake that runs northwest to southeast across the center of Cambodia. It's a strange lake in that it swells to nearly 3 times its normal size in the rainy season. This happens as the rains and the melting of the snow from the Himalayan mountains rushes down the Mekong River, becomes too much, and backs up into the Ton Sap. When the dry season starts again in around November, the water drains, leaving a rich silt deposit. This has always enabled important agricultural yields in the area. Having seen some of the results of the war between the Khmer Rouge and the Vietnamese forces, and having a visit to something called the killing fields planned, causes some apprehension as you travel down the lake, glimpsing small pieces of Cambodian life as it passes by. Once in Phnom Penh, you will find many guides for Tuol Sleng and the killing fields, many of whom have actually had their lives touched by this period in Cambodia's history. If you consider that up to 25% of the population at the time died or were killed, almost anyone you talk to has had some part of their world touched, many in direct and brutal ways. S21 was established at Tuol Sleng in May 1976 in an old high school. It was the most secret organ of the Khmer Rouge regime and stands for Security Office 21. S21 was the premier security institution, specifically designed for the interrogation and extermination of anti-revolutionary elements.
Everybody have to sleep, lie down in the bed here. They don't use a gun to kill the prisoner. We don't find about the, trace of the bullet. People kill the victim with the knife, with bayonet. Look at the mouth, nose, eye, broken. They put their head into water, and the water from the toilet box. Excrement or urine, they fill them in a jar, and then they drown prisoner again and again until they die. If somebody say, no, I don't know, no, I'm not, baby, until the old people. Normally, if the Khmer Rouge kill one prisoner, the Khmer Rouge want to kill a whole family. They collect father, mother, grandmother, daughter, sister, wife, baby, children from the countryside, and Pol Pot decided to kill them too. Pol Pot assured them to be the family of the traitor, must kill. Killers or the security guard of this prison.
All these people?
Yeah, from 10 to 20 years old of age.
Also these?
And these people, they were prisoners. They had no caps. The boy with the caps, uniform of the Khmer Rouge. Of Indian, American, Australian, British, New Zealand, French, Pakistanis, the Vietnamese, Thai, etc. Everyone in Cambodia must be killed. So when the government came here, they found some photograph. I don't know sure, but we estimate about 6,000 or 7,000 photographs. They put them in here. No door, no bed, pillow or mattress. So everybody just sleep or lie down on the floor, but they chain them. Look at the chain. Most famous singer of Cambodia that you heard from the wedding party. Yeah, his song now.
So he was tortured here and killed.
In killing. Yeah? And Vann Nath from Phnom Penh to Battambang Bong. Yeah. And then from the Battambang to Phnom Penh. But me, I'm lucky to stay here until the Vietnamese army arrived. The painting of Vann Nath.
This is the 7 prisoners that survived from here.
There are only 7 known survivors of Tuol Sleng, or S21 as it was known. Of these, only 2 are alive today. One of these survivors is Vann Nath.
Seem they knew, it's a reason for him, but he cannot escape, from from that. He still don't understand about the reason that the Khmer Rouge, didn't kill him. Allow him, alive. But he just say in one day the Khmer Rouge want him, to draw the pictures of Pol Pot.
He is a painter captured in Battambang province by a man he'd known since childhood in the same village. There are moments when he thought he would be shot right there. He was not. Instead, he was taken to Tuol Sleng, where he was stripped, starved, and interrogated.
After all he has been
What do you
through,
say to someone who has experienced and witnessed things you may not even begin to imagine, and lost 2 children at the hands of his oppressors?
And all these bad memories for him.
His pictures, painted of memories from this time in prison, speak for themselves. All these years later, he shows photographs taken from a television program showing the paintings he did of Pol Pot on the threat of death. He is a truly amazing man who calmly tries to explain his unbelievable experiences without malice to people who can hardly begin to understand. He still paints. There is less pain in these vibrant paintings, but he claims to fear the Khmer Rouge still, and has bars to keep them out. Many of the people who did not survive S21 were taken to this location, the killing fields, approximately 14 kilometers from Phnom Penh. Here they and many other random and innocent victims were massacred and buried in mass graves.
They're angry, thought that to kill here too. When they told the Khmer who killing people here, not killed by them. And they very far from Phnom Penh, and secret killing nobody knew.
How many people died?
More than 2 million.
So they used to walk the prisoners all the way from Phnom Penh to here. It's closer for victims, huh?
Breastbone keep upstairs. This is broken skull. Sometimes we use ritual axol or hole. It is head killing. Yeah.
all the foreigners presenting Phnom Penh.
And Dutch management of the prison too, like at the time with the Khmer Rouge torture them, the government put in prison too, and still have Pol Pot number 2, number 3, yeah, in Thai border hiding, in Sari fields of home.
Around the Anlong Veng.
Yeah.
Today, it's a museum for the horrors of the time. The Khmer Rouge found many reasons to kill these people: possession of foraged food, people who were caught with a fish, a crab, a snail, or a lizard were sometimes summarily executed for misappropriation of the people's resources. There are still bones and clothes from the victims buried in the ground everywhere. It's an uneasy feeling and leaves you with the sense that this is hallowed ground. This site was discovered in 1980. The United Nations continued for many years to come to ratify the Khmer Rouge as the representatives of the Cambodian people. When you leave these sites and reminders, you can find places and people that make it seem possible to forget, if just for a moment, that they even happened.
I like to have some mango and some watermelon. Pineapple, only one pineapple only, each.
You can take a train from Sihanoukville to Pol Pot. You will be advised against this 6-hour journey, but it's an amazing experience, and the casino there on its hill in the mist is strangely out of place and one of the few reminders of French colonial rule. You will soon find out why you were advised not to travel this way. The 120-kilometer journey is scheduled to take 6 hours and to begin at 6 a.m. It doesn't. But you have time to catch up with some fellow travelers. The train eventually leaves at 12:30 p.m. and makes its way slowly towards Pol Pot. The train has a life of its own. Strange contraptions, driven by motorcycles, come up behind and offload goods and people at reduced rates. Even the conductors and hawkers operate on the roof as the Pol Pot province passes slowly by. It's an arduous journey where the destination has little to do with the experience. At the top of Bokor Hill, close to Pol Pot, is an old casino that had its heyday in the 1920s. Those were the days of French colonial rule, but there is not very much left as a reminder of them after the destruction caused by the Khmer Rouge.
They think display very beautiful view, so they want to build a casino and hotel and some building For the first time, they to be in 1922, and they to play game and stay here, and help people danger. Help people danger because some people lost lots of money, and they didn't go back to their home. They jump down, kill themselves behind.
You forget you're in Cambodia for a moment, until you come back down the hill to the heat and the familiar Cambodian sights and sounds. The remote northeastern province of Ratanakiri is hidden away from the rest of the country and seems almost untouched by the Cambodians' turbulent history. Getting there over land seems almost unheard of to most people in Phnom Penh, but you can take a plane. It's easy and relaxed and takes you over some spectacular landscapes. The flight in a Chinese plane with a Russian pilot is a reminder of the Cold War. Over 85% of the population of Ratanakiri belong to ethnic minorities, hill tribes, who for centuries have made their living in and around the forest. The Krung, who make up 19% of the population, live in villages relatively close to Anlong. These people clear the forests for farming and collect subsistence products such as fuel wood, medicine, food, and construction materials. Elephants are therefore an important tool. They can also earn hard cash by taking tourists on jungle rides, which is also important, as wage labor is extremely limited in this area. Life in Ratanakiri goes by slowly, especially with the Krung, it seems. The pace of the elephant ride sums it up.
Oh. Oh. No way. Oh.
The hill tribes all have different languages, and all are different to Khmer. It's amazing to imagine how this collection of different cultures and languages developed in this particular area. These are old rubber trees, and it was in rubber plantations such as these that Pol Pot hid before he came to power, where he gathered momentum for the revolution. This area was also on the Ho Chi Minh Trail during the Vietnam War. More American bombs fell over eastern Cambodia than northern Vietnam during the war. Because of their minority status, the hill tribes have always been at odds with the regimes in Phnom Penh. Local communities have no legal rights to the land. Consultation with local people over the development of the area has been minimal. In Krung villages, one finds araks. These women are spirit mediums who can cure people by contacting the spirits through rituals and ceremonies. They have a role in village health care and play an important role in the general welfare of the whole village because of their ability to establish contact between the spirit and the humans. They have special customs and ceremonies surrounding various areas of village life. It's not easy to experience one of these. The fact of the matter is that life is hard here, and generally most of the village is out working in the forest. You can see how difficult life is if you take a simple task like the making of a new axe. For these people, the piece of metal being worked is gold, and the process long and hard. Up to 6 hours to complete this axe, using ancient, unchanged techniques.
Make a new one or putting.
They take pride in their blacksmith skills, and the finished product is treasured. This area is also renowned for its zircon gemstones. They're beautiful stones that come out of the ground an earthy brown color, but when cut and cooked turn green, blue and yellow. They range from $2 per carat to $10 per carat, depending on the size of the stone. This is when cut and cooked, and our prices in Ratanakiri. Of course, prices are much higher on the markets in Thailand, and they are sometimes referred to as Thai diamonds.
About 5 or 6 carat. It's bigger. This one is bigger, and the price is more high. It's about this 9 carat. This stone is 1 carat is $10.
This one?
Yeah, this one is big. The price high.
When you burn this, it turns to different colors?
Yeah. First it's natural from this color.
Yeah.
Then when we burn, it turn to the green and yellow.
The mines are well off the beaten track. A small handful of stones is offered to us for $5. They will take 2. This is the result of work of 4 people for an entire morning.
Yeah.
It's a simple, frightening process. They dig 10 to 12 meter deep holes straight into the red soil and work them. There are no supports, and the temperatures at the bottom must reach 45 degrees. The thick, humid smell of the soil is overpowering, and it's difficult to imagine that these people spend an hour at a time down there. Afterwards, we heard stories that they have approximately 3 cave-in deaths a month. It's not hard to imagine the attractiveness of 3 meals a day to join a revolutionary organization like the Khmer Rouge for these people. You can stock up on some fruit and vegetables in the market in Ratanakiri, because leaving Ratanakiri by land is not easy. 12 hours to Kracha on the back of a pickup truck, a night in Kracha, a trip down the Mekong River to Kompong Cham, a special lunch in Skuon, and a car to Siem Reap. You'd think that you'd be used to a trip on a pickup truck by now. But the road to Karachi is no highway, and 12 dusty hours on the pickup rattling at your bones will remind you of this. As the roads and villages pass you by, it's hard to tell one from the other, especially not by their relative state of disrepair. They are all the same in this regard. For the Khmer, the people of Cambodia, this kind of trip is simply a part of daily life. These roads are highways, and they're the only ones. Still, you have problems when you arrive after 12 hours to find a Khmer wedding party outside your window and sleep a distant possibility. The boat trip down the Mekong River is beautiful, and you get off in a town called Kompong Cham. Kompong means landing place. One can only assume that this was where the Chams, the old name for the Vietnamese, landed during their attacks in the 13th and 14th centuries. Our first stop on the way to Siem Reap was a small town called Skuon. This town is unique, as it's the only town in Cambodia where they eat these spiders. Grilled, crispy and salty, like a bar snack.
No, thank you. Thank you both for the mission.
Back in Siem Reap, you have an opportunity to see the results of decades of violence on the land itself.
We go this way,
Halo Trust is a non-governmental organization dedicated to the removal of landmines in many countries in the world, one of which is Cambodia. Halo Cambodia now has over 920 deminers and is funded by the governments of Britain, Finland, Ireland, the United States of America, Australia, the Netherlands, and private donations from Britain and particularly Japan.
Which way? Yeah. The mines, this PMD6. This this is blast mine made in Russia, but this is very effective. Most people who step on this mine maybe 80% or 90% died.
Halo's operations have been based in these northwestern provinces of Cambodia since October 1991. Following the departure of Vietnamese forces in September 1989, Cambodia was subjected to its most significant episode of mine-laying, as all parties tried to increase their leverage by enlarging battlefield gains, and the Khmer Rouge fleeing north through this area.
It's a far away, so the government used to occupy that area many times.
It's not only landmines that cause accidents to local residents. Old mortars and bombs, some dating back to the Vietnam War days, still have the potential to explode and injure innocent people. The process is laborious.
And move like this, and go back. We sweep this at least 2 times after you take the head. Yeah.
The area here is being cleared for the creation of a new village. Approximately 75% of the accidents occur in rice fields and roads close to villages, sometimes in villages themselves.
We cannot
The vegetation has to be cut and each lane swept 3 times, and it's hard to imagine the work involved in getting this land to a place where it's habitable again. Halo estimates that it will take approximately 10 years at the current finance and labor levels. When a piece of metal is discovered, the mine clearers start 20 centimeters behind the site and dig in slowly until the object is reached. This is a process that can take up to 2 hours. The yields are sometimes not very explosive. Whatever your impressions of Cambodia may have been, one thing is for certain. Keeping them is a gain. Losing them is a loss.